Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome, and thank you all for attending Hospice Peterborough's 35th Annual General Meeting. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. That's great. My name is Heini Hős, and I have the honor to be the Executive Director of Hospice Peterborough. It is really, truly so lovely to see so many familiar faces and friends. Thank you for coming. Let me begin by respectfully acknowledging that although we meet virtually, most of us probably reside on Mississauga Anishinaabe traditional land, and we offer our deep gratitude to our First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. We acknowledge that where we meet is the land and territory of the Anishinaabe people. We gather with gratitude to our Mississauga neighbors. We say miigwech to thank them and other Aboriginal peoples for taking care of this land from time immemorial and for sharing this land with those of us who are newcomers. Out of that gratitude, we are called to treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and its peoples with honor and respect. We are all treaty people. We acknowledge that the land on which Hospice Peterborough is located is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga and in the territory covered by Treaty 20. We have another fantastic year behind us, despite all the challenges, thanks to the commitment of our staff, board, volunteers, and our community. Just to mention a few highlights from this past year, and some of it you have seen in the slideshow, we have supported 2,160 clients. We had 189 admissions to our residents, which I believe is a record year. We had 1,023 sessions supporting clients in their grief. There were 38,346 meaningful interactions supporting our clients in the community by staff or volunteers. 38,345. I calculated, and that is an average of 105 meaningful interactions each day. It is 105 clients each day who got support. So we are very proud and feel very blessed that we can do this work. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all of our donors who see the value of our mission. Thank you to all of you for being a critical part of our work to support people and families facing end-of-life, life-threatening illness or grief. And now I will share a few housekeeping notes. As you saw, we are recording this meeting on Zoom, and we will post the recordings on our website and potentially on YouTube. The meeting package is available on our website and was also sent to you. These documents will not be shown on screen during this meeting, so you may want to make them available to yourself now. Our annual report will be shared by email on our website and through social media in the next few weeks. Zoom has a few features you might want to use today, and probably everybody is a Zoom expert by now, but in case you are not, on the top right of your screen, you can click on different view options. When you choose gallery view, you can see everyone who is attending, and speaker view will show the person speaking in a large window. I would kindly ask you to please mute your computer now if you have not done it yet, to eliminate any background noise. You can do so by clicking on the mute icon on the bottom of your screen. You can unmute yourself with the same method. If during the business portion of the meeting you do not support a motion, please unmute and state your objection when the chair asks if anyone is opposed to a motion, especially if you join the meeting on the phone and you cannot be seen. But we will try to look out for everybody, but please speak up. Does anyone have any questions? No, perfect. Then without further ado, I would like to welcome and introduce our keynote speakers, Dr. John Beamish and Dr. Christopher Blake. In addition to a long-standing family practice, Dr. Beamish provided excellent palliative care to patients for more than 4 decades. Dr. Beamish is a trailblazer in the palliative field. He was one of the founding members of Hospice Peterborough and served so many important roles within our organization, from board member to medical director. From his many awards, I would like to highlight the Dr. S. Lawrence Liebrecht Award for Palliative Medicine by Hospice Palliative Care Ontario in 2021. During the COVID-19 lockdown, Dr. Beamish agreed to be the only palliative physician for months to serve in our residence as a means to reduce the number of people entering the facility. He came in every day for 4 months, even weekends and holidays, at the height of the pandemic without complaint, and as always showed kindness, compassion, and good humor every day. Dr. Beamish retired from his role of being our medical director at the end of April, and Dr. Christopher Blake took this role on. Dr. Blake attended medical school at McMaster University and completed his family medicine residency in Barrie through the University of Toronto. He went on to complete a year of added competency in palliative care as well. Chris is also the current interim division lead for palliative care at PRHC. His interests include public health approaches to palliative care and narrative medicine. Outside of work, Chris enjoys writing fiction and spending time with his wife and 18-month-old son, who is the cutest kid ever. This is not in his bio, I just added that. Welcome, Dr. Beamish and Dr. Blake, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Heini, and welcome. This is my last official act with Hospice Peterborough, and I'm looking forward to it. So Chris and I, the topic today is hospice palliative care, past, present, future. And I'm going to speak to the past and the present, and then turn it over to Chris to speak about the future and where we're going in the years ahead. Now, when speaking of the past, it's best to start with a disclaimer. The flow of memory is very malleable and subjective. These are my recollections. They may or may not align with the facts. In my practice time, hospice palliative care has come a long way. There have been many changes, but one consistent theme. In Peterborough, we have intertwined professional expertise with durable, consistent community support. Operating alone, physicians and nurses could not have made Hospice Peterborough work, and community energy on its own would have ground down into a morass of ineffectual wishing. But together, bound in hope and compassion, they have created a community leader and given solace to thousands. Now, palliative care was relatively unknown when I was finishing medical school in 1979. In fact, during my residency, I asked my preceptor for further training. He responded that there was none available and it really wasn't part of medicine. I ended up taking a community college course aimed at nurses and social workers in order to find the foundations of palliative care. But there was a growing community. McGill University, under the leadership of Balfour Mount, had just opened the first palliative care unit and had begun the International Congress on Palliative Care. This brought leaders from around the world together to share innovations. For me, this was a breathtaking learning experience. There also was a nascent palliative care community in Toronto with Larry Liebrecht and Frank Ferris. They were immensely helpful to me and only a phone call away. Arriving in Peterborough in 1982, there was no medical-based palliative care for the dying. And to be frank, my interest was seen as rather quaint. What established credibility was success. Once hospital nurses saw that symptoms could be controlled at the end of life, they pestered attending physicians to ask for a consultation. The local scene, however, was not a complete vacuum. Donovan Brown, then the chaplain at Peterborough Civic Hospital, developed a group of palliative sitters who would stay at the bedside of those who were dying. Families in that era were restricted to visiting hours, and most patients died alone. This group would accompany those dying and bridge back to the family. This was a radical idea in 1982. But it was a hint that community could pick up where medicine failed. Slowly, care in the hospital improved. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's On Death and Dying led to a surge in community interest. A major change occurred during the AIDS epidemic. It's hard to overestimate the fear and lack of knowledge that accompanied AIDS. No group in medicine wanted to step forward to care for this group, and palliative care filled that gap. We worked not only in the community, but also in hospital to build bridges that last to this day. We established credibility and the idea that even though cure was not possible, but symptoms could be managed took root. In the 80s, the Ministry of Health had agencies called district health councils. They reviewed community health needs and developed local solutions. This was pretty radical. Under their auspices, a committee to look at local palliative care needs was formed. The formidable Judith Heaney chaired this committee, which led to the foundation of Hospice Peterborough. Initially, it operated under the umbrella of the Red Cross, but very quickly outgrew that structure and was incorporated on its own. A founding principle in Peterborough was that palliative care needed both professional expertise and community involvement. This started at the beginning and was rather radical at the time, for most hospice programs were exclusively volunteer agencies with little professional involvement. Our first employee and director was Pat Knapp, a nurse. She brought case management and review. After extensive interviews and consultation, a patient and family's needs would be described and advocated for. Lyle Horn, a minister, Hugh McMillan, a social worker, and myself would meet with Pat on a regular basis to review cases. The interdisciplinary team was born. Lyle has gone on to build really one of the leading grief support programs in the province, and today continues to serve thousands of people. A robust volunteer training program was developed, and volunteers were inserted wherever the need was felt. From accompaniment to talking, to shopping, to lawn cutting, the community found a way to make those dying and their families feel less alone. The use of professional expertise and volunteer resiliency allowed Hospice Peterborough to gain standing both in the medical community and the wider community. In the mid-1990s, Mike Harris's ironically named Common Sense Revolution led to a streamlining of healthcare services. Our two hospitals, Civic and St. Joseph's, could not provide redundant services. Civic took active care, while St. Joseph's was deemed to be chronic care. While the shift was traumatic, it did afford an opportunity. Under the leadership of Marianne Schill, the idea of a palliative care unit was raised. Stéphane Regaz, Paul Craig, and myself, along with Jody Dunn, worked towards opening a 10-bed unit focused on excellence in end-of-life care. This changed greatly the landscape. We proved that good symptom-focused care delivered by dedicated nurses, social workers, and chaplains could improve the end-of-life experience for the dying and their families. Suffering could be lessened, a dedicated space paid off. At the same time, community nursing shifted to allow for a specific palliative care nursing team to be brought into the community. Later, under the leadership of Dr. Jennifer Gillis Doyle, Peterborough was among the very first communities in the province to receive funding for physicians to be available 24/7 for community consultation. This afforded the first steps in wraparound care and prevented many, many patients from being stranded in the emergency room. Now, while most people, when asked, said that they wished to die at home, the majority died in hospital. Complex care needs that exceeded families' caregiving abilities, folks without caregivers meant that hospitalization was the norm. Hospice Peterborough recognized the need for a new third space where clients could die in a home-like environment with round-the-clock professional care and volunteer support and community involvement. Linda Sunderland, as executive director, pursued this vision for over a decade and led us to this new amazing building. The building was a community project. The vision, the initiative, the drive came from the people of Peterborough County. This was their project, not a Ministry of Health project. Upon opening our new building, it was seen as a community accomplishment that all could share in. Expertise was valued. Community could come through the doors and provide energy and support. Families could be families and not carry the anxieties that accompany caregiving. We met our goal of excellent care in the community, and care of the dying was seen as a community activity, not a government program. And then COVID hit. Community access was disrupted, and dying could have become an isolating experience again. But we were creative. At Hospice Peterborough, we were in the very first pilot project to do regular testing. By aggressively testing a family and staff, we were able to allow for a continued family presence at the bedside. Staff dedication and willingness to endure PPE and testing allowed compassionate care to continue. Proudly, through the time of COVID, not a single transmission has occurred within Hospice Peterborough. While we have had individual cases, at no time did the virus spread from one to another. I suspect that we are the only healthcare provider in the city that can make that claim. Our community presence suffered as visiting programs and grief support programs had to be curtailed, but virtual creativity allowed for them to continue, and now our community programs have robustly returned. In the past year, after very extensive consultation and reflection, Hospice Peterborough has allowed medical aid in dying in our building. This has avoided the very uncomfortable disruption that occurred when clients had to leave our building to have the procedure performed at the hospital. In summary, I'd like us to reflect that only 16 to 30% of Canadians have access to palliative hospice care. In Peterborough County, thanks to Hospice Peterborough, the Palliative Physicians Group, the Palliative Care Unit at PRHC, and the visiting nurses through Elizabeth, all have access. Yes, there are issues. Shortages of staff mean that continuity can be broken and needs not completely met. But not to be lost is the realization that in Peterborough County, all have access to some measure of palliative care. Overall, Peterborough County is better served than the vast majority of Canadians. In the stress of day-to-day, it is easy to forget how well we are doing. Our care is equal to any in the country, a fact that we can be rightly proud of. Peterborough is a good place to die. Now, that's been a very quick review of how we got here. And I'd like to introduce Chris Blake, Hospice Peterborough's new medical director. Remember I said I graduated from medical school in 1979? Well, Chris was born in 1989. His arrival marks a true generational change and renewal. His leadership and vision will help to guide Hospice Peterborough through the inevitable challenges of the next decades. Chris, over to you.
Thank you so very much, John. And not merely for that wonderful recap and summarization of the incredible work that you and others have done in bringing Peterborough and palliative care to the place where it is, but for that work itself. I think it's very fair to say that those of us in my generation stand on the shoulders of those in your generation and you yourself who have helped to take palliative care from, as you say, the margins of both medicine and community thought to being in many ways one of the most popular and sought after areas in which some of my colleagues and contemporaries wish to practice. When I was leaving Toronto and looking for a place in which to practice palliative care, and I spoke to the colleagues who were working, my now colleagues working in Peterborough, I left the conversation saying, if only I could have designed with my mind the perfect palliative care program, this would be it. And I think that speaks to the work and dedication of John and the various members who've historically contributed to it, both in the medical community and the broader community. So thank you. The things which brought me to an interest in palliative care in the first place was an idea when I first embarked on my first medical school rotation in palliative care in Grimsby, Ontario, that a mentor of mine instilled. And that was that a good death is everybody's business. It is not merely members of the medical community who can help to ensure this, but all of us who are responsible for providing quality care to those facing life-limiting illness. I will say, as Heine mentioned earlier, I am the proud father of an 18-month-old. And we often say that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I believe also that it takes a village to ease a person out of this world. So I think that I will pick up on the themes which John's articulated about the partnership between the community and the medical world. And I will outline what I think could be a few potential challenges that we may face. John spoke beautifully about the incipient phases of palliative care. And we've seen that as time has gone on, it has expanded and expanded to the point where, as John says, there is a potential access for everybody in Peterborough to these incredible services. Palliative care, though, still has opportunities to go further in expanding our services to all those who may benefit. And I think that equity, ensuring that those who may not traditionally have had as much access to palliative care receive it, is an important challenge that we can face together. There's clear data when we look at a provincial level that the historic trend in which cancer patients and the oncology world, where the predominant patients receiving palliative care, remains to a degree still the case. But we know that those with non-malignant illnesses, such as heart failure or renal failure, face similar symptom burdens and issues with their quality of life. And I think it is always important that we push to continually expand the provision of palliative care to all those who may benefit. Likewise, and I know that John is working on projects of this nature, even now in his retirement, There are those who have suffered marginalization, for instance, those who are marginally housed, who have historically not had as ready access to the sort of services that palliative care can provide. This focus on equity and ensuring that all those who might benefit is, I think, of the greatest importance in honoring the promise of palliative care to, as John says, ensure that all those who would benefit from it at the end of life may receive it. I think another challenge that faces palliative care is one of the management of some symptoms. You know, you might expect that I would say something on the order of pain or nausea or something like that. I think I'm grateful to say that not in every case, but in general, we are very skilled and proficient in the management of symptoms such as these. I think one area that continues to be an ongoing challenge in management for patients and their families is that of the existential distress that they face, a crisis of meaning, purpose, and value as a person faces the coming of the end of their life. So you might wonder, these two issues, how may they be related? And what solutions might we offer for these things? Some people might speculate that, you know, new fancy drugs might be of benefit for the management of this symptom I discussed. And I think it's fair to say that in future, there will probably be more research and emphasis placed on medications, for instance, like ketamine or psilocybin, in which research is being undertaken to help manage this comment I made about existential distress at the end of life. But I don't think that medication is the only solution to these problems. I don't think, you know, as much as we hear about in the news these days, that AI is going to be the solution to these problems. I think that in order to provide more equitable care for all those who might benefit, in order to help patients and their families find meaning, purpose, value, and yes, joy as they suffer life-limiting illness, we need to go, and with apologies to the Marty McFly films, I think we have to go the future backwards. There was a time where death was not so foreign to our society. There was a time where it was common for patients to spend the end of their life at home, surrounded by the family and those who loved them. The medicalization and technological advances of the 20th century, to a degree, divorced the end of life from its traditional place in the community and moved it into hospitals and away from patients and their families. With the movements of the hospice movement and the community, we're seeing a change now where we can return death and dying to the place where it was always historically undertaken, which is through and with the support of the families and the community. And in so doing, I think that will help us address both of these concerns. Death is the ultimate unknown, and the unknown is typically the greatest thing which we fear. With a recognition and conversation and broader discussion of the reality of death in all of our lives, we can move society away from a death-denying society to a society in which it is just as normal to talk about the importance of good end-of-life care as it is to talk about the importance of other phases of life. Through doing so, we will, I believe, enhance patients and their families' abilities to come to acceptance and understanding of the issues that they're facing. And in so doing, continue to emphasize the importance of meaning and purpose and joy that can be found even in the face of life-limiting illness. Through doing so, I think we also have the opportunity to increase the awareness of the services which are available to us. And in so doing, increase the frequency with which they're taken up. I know that as more and more people experience the wonderful care that the palliative care services in this community have been able to provide, the more that they too can advocate for themselves and their family members and their friends and those they love to receive such similar care. And I know that as John indicated, as the healthcare system and medical staff, nurses, physicians, allied health, etc., see the benefits that we can provide and know what we can do, they too will, I think, continue to refer and direct patients in the way of palliative care. And through these ways, I think we have an opportunity to expand the equity of the services that we provide too. You know, I was a Newfoundlander. I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland. And in Newfoundland, if you were out in the outports in the old days, if you didn't support one another, nobody would make it through. We as a community have the opportunity to support one another to help further the means of palliative care so that a good death is everybody's business and that a good death can be had by all and good supports provided for patients for their grief and bereavement. I think that the challenges that we may face, I think will be faced together in solidarity and with shared goals and vision and in partnership. And I am truly honored to be able to, I don't ever want to say step into John's shoes, although others have said that, because nobody can step into John's shoes. But I am privileged and honored to have the opportunity to be of whatever support I can to help face what challenges this new century will bring in palliative care and in Peterborough. And I'm so encouraged by the strength and of the community and the passion that is brought to this mission. Thank you so much for the chance to speak with you all today.
Thank you, John and Chris, for this wonderful presentation. One of the many reasons why I'm not worried about quality hospice palliative care in our community is because we have doctors like you and our other palliative physicians who are so committed to our mission. Yeah, you just blow me away every time any of you speak. So thank you so much for this. And thank you for all you do for Hospice Peterborough and your clients as well. And also, I would like to add for John that John, Hospice Peterborough would not be where it is now without you and your many years of work and vision. Your impact on community-focused, compassionate healthcare for all will undoubtedly live on for generations to come. We wish you good health and many incredible adventures in your retirement, knowing that your legacy is in great hands with Dr. Blake. Thank you again to both of you for your presentation.
Thank you, Heini.
And now, if everyone is ready, we can start the business part of our official 35th Annual General Meeting. Let me introduce to you our President and Chair of our Board, Len Lifchus, who will lead the business meeting.
Thank you, Heini, and thank you, John and Chris, for your excellent presentations. I don't know if John's disappeared already, but if he hasn't, we wish you well, John, in your retirement. And for Chris, fasten your seatbelts as the Hospice Express continues its journey in the city and county of Peterborough. We don't intend to stop what we're doing. Anyway, on that note, I'd like to welcome you to, while this is our 35th annual meeting, it is our third consecutive virtual annual general meeting. And as I was saying to Heini earlier today, I hope it's our last virtual annual meeting. But anyway, we will see. Before we begin, let me explain who are members of Hospice Peterborough and who are eligible to vote at this business meeting. Based on our current bylaws, members of Hospice Peterborough must be 18 years of age or older. However, not all members can vote. Voting members are board members, board committee members, and active volunteers. And by active volunteers, we mean you have been active within the last 12 months volunteering here. That doesn't mean to say if you're not an active volunteer, you have to leave. You're more than welcome. And you know, they're just standard motions. So I don't want you to lose any sleep if you can't vote on minutes and stuff like that. but we will proceed. Non-voting members are all of our donors who are not active volunteers or committee members or board members, just so that we're clear. If you're not sure, you can, in the chat box at the bottom, send Megan Blodgett a confidential text saying, do I get a vote or don't I get a vote? And she'll be happy to answer your question. If you move or second a motion, please state your name loudly so that we can record it in the minutes. Now, in fairness, we have predetermined all the movers and seconder because it's a virtual setting. So I will read out the names of the movers and seconders. If there happens to be any motions that come before the meeting that are a surprise to Hoynie and I, well, we'll just go with the flow and deal with it at that time. So our first motion is to approve the 2023 agenda and minutes of the 2022 annual meeting. And the motion is, be it resolved that the agenda of the AGM of 2023 be approved and the minutes of the AGM of June 16, 22 be approved. And the motion is being moved by Mary Blair and seconded by Bob Campbell. Are there any questions before I call for the vote? I see no hands a waving here, and Megan hasn't alerted me that in the other screen, so we're good. So I'm going to ask if anyone is opposed. If you're opposed, if you would raise your hands. Are there any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. It is my pleasure to introduce to you at this time Marie Dietrich from Grant Thornton, our audit firm, who will present the audited financial statements for 2022-23. Over to you, Marie.
Thanks, Len. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to present the audited financial statements. You can follow along by looking at the summarized audited financial statement document that was included in the AGM email. I'd like to start out by thanking the finance team for all of their assistance throughout the audit. Last month, we met with the Finance Committee to review the results of the audit and the financial statements. The Finance Committee recommended approval to the Board of Directors, and the board approved the financial statements on May 25th. Our role as auditors is to ensure the financial statements are materially correct. We qualify our opinion on the financial statements since there are no audit tests available to ensure that revenue from donations and fundraising is complete. This is a very common qualification for not-for-profit organizations. Our opinion is disclosed in the independent auditor's report, which states that, other than the qualification I mentioned, the financial statements and disclosures are materially correct as at the March 31st, 2023 year end. Looking at the statement of operations, you can see that total revenue for the year was just under $3.3 million, and that was up about 3.5% from the prior year. Major categories of revenues are government funding, which amounted to $2.2 million, or about 68% of total revenue. The next biggest category is donations, which amounted to about $810,000, and that was 25% of total revenues. And the remaining 7% of revenues comes from grants, fundraising, and investment income. On the expenditure side, the total expenses were $3.24 million, which was an increase of about 5% from the prior year. The largest portion of expenses was remuneration and contract fees, which amounted to $2.48 million, or about 77% of total expenses. The next largest expense is amortization of capital assets, and that amounted to $332,000, or approximately 10% of total expenses. And the remaining expenses amounted to $428,000, or 13%. So overall, there was an excess of revenue over expenditures of almost $14,000. So on a budget of almost $3.3 million, very close to break even. Looking at the statement of financial position, this is a snapshot at a point in time, which is the year end of March 31st. So it shows what assets the organization owns, what liabilities it owes, and then the remainder is the fund balances. So total assets were just over $11.3 million, which was very similar to 2022. Most of the assets were in capital assets amounting to about $8.3 million, and they consisted of property and furniture and equipment. And there was also a very healthy cash and investment position of about $2.7 million. The remaining assets consisted of accounts receivable and prepaid expenses totaling $285,000. On the liability side, liabilities totaled almost $108,000 and consisted mainly of accounts payable and accrued liabilities and a small amount of deferred revenue. So subtracting the liabilities from the assets, we get the fund balances, and they totaled $11.2 million, consisting of $8.3 million of an investment in capital assets, $2 million set aside by the board, internally restricted for capital asset replacement and operational emergencies, and then an unrestricted balance of $829,000. So overall, a very healthy financial position. That concludes my report. I'm open to any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Marie. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to unmute yourself and ask the question of Marie. Marie, you're off the hook. Excellent, excellent.
Thanks,
So
Lynn.
thank you again, Marie. At this time, Adam Burns will move and Heather Eidson will second the following motion. Be it resolved that the financial report for the year ending March 31st, 2023 be accepted. Is anyone opposed to the motion? If you are, wave. Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. At this time, Adam Burns will move and Mary Blair will second the motion. Be it resolved that Grant Thornton LLP be appointed as auditors of Hospice Peterborough for the year 2023 to 2024. Are there any questions? Any opposed? Wave. Abstentions? Wave. The motion is carried. Excellent. It is now time for the chair's report. The board found 22-23 a year facing many challenges. The continuation of COVID, along with the transitioning of the organization back into full operations with limited restrictions, was met in a diplomatic and positive light. Our executive director, Hoyni Haas, was faced with several senior staff vacancies, including the semi-retirement of the manager of resource development, the departure of the manager of the residence, as well as the retirement of our beloved hospice medical director, Dr. John Beamish. And while healthcare does have its hiring challenges, she was able to promote from within for the resource development position, attract a highly qualified manager of residence, and hire a new medical director who is well respected in this field and offers to assist hospice to keep up to date with the trends and changes in palliative care medicine. Not to mention that he is young and at the forefront of his career. In fact, I'm old enough to be his father. Hospice also ventured into expanded services with a partnership with Hospice Norwood. And hello, Hospice Norwood, we see you. As well as coming to terms and helping the board reach a decision regarding medical assistance in dying. Each challenge was faced head-on with much thought and consideration in dealing with and developing an outcome that was beneficial to the organization. The expansion of services involved working with both funders and Hospice Norwood to come up with the proposed outcome to benefit both organizations. Extending our reach into Norwood matches our mandate to provide programs and services, not just in the city of Peterborough, but into the county as well. Although still in its infancy, there is a lot of promise in the partnership to better serve the city and county of Peterborough. MAID was a year-long journey, started by my friend Bob Campbell, who was president at the time, who quickly passed it off to me this time last year. Linked to our strategic plan, the board considered the issue thoughtfully and with dignity, even though it was both highly political and sensitive. A comprehensive analysis of the situation was carried out with input received from key players on the issue. With the support of our executive director and senior management team, the board was able to draw a conclusion, and our executive director and her team were able to develop and implement a plan for the introduction of MAID into the residence, not as a destination, but as an option for residents who qualify for admission. We are committed to providing compassionate, person-centered care. Our executive director worked closely with Peterborough Regional Health Center in effecting a sound plan of actions. In fact, our course of action and approach and communications has been recognized by other hospices, and the board is most appreciative with how this highly sensitive issue was dealt with and implemented. I would like to personally thank our board for their commitment and dedication to hospice, its values, vision, and mission. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Karen Auger, John Corso, and Bob Campbell for their ongoing commitment and dedication to hospice over the past 6 to 7 years. You have served the board well and helped to mold and shape it into the organization that it has become today. And remember, you're just 1 year away from being able to return to the board, should your thoughts wander in that direction. On behalf of the board, I would like to extend our sincerest gratitude and appreciation to our executive director, Hoini Haas, and her phenomenal team for all their work and support to and for our organization. To our incredible volunteers, a big thank you. And to the clients we serve, you are why we are here, and your needs are our lifeblood, our actions. I've had the privilege over the past year of speaking with a number of family members who have taken advantage of our programs and services. And it is most gratifying and humbling to know that we are indeed making a difference to the lives of many, many people here in the city and county of Peterborough. And with that, it has been a pleasure for all of us on the board to have been given the opportunity to be so impacted by the wonderful work that hospice carries out each and every day of the year. Thank you. I would now like to turn the floor over to our past president, Bob Campbell, to deliver the report of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Len. Each year, as people know, the Board of Hospice Peterborough conducts a very thorough recruitment process, which includes board skills gap analysis to identify what skills, if any, we are missing from the board. Our board does this through our governance committee, and as chair of the governance committee, I'd like to just thank our committee, Cora Whittington, Stuart Harrison, Kirsten Burgermaster, and of course, Hoini and Len, and also Mary, who attended many of our meetings. Thank them for their work. So subsequent to the analysis, the board leads a fairly extensive recruitment process, which includes postings for positions that need to be filled on the board. Based on the skills gap analysis, shortlisting and interviewing the most qualified candidates. The process was the same this year. We had extremely qualified applicants, which is really a testament of Hospice Peterborough's fantastic reputation in the community. And the board of directors, through the governance committee, are pleased to bring 3 names forward to the membership to be elected as new board members. Each person will see the package or the information and the biographical information of the 3 members in their package. And so I won't read the extensive bios for each of them. It's already there for you. So I am very happy to present and move the following motion. Be it resolved that the following board members be elected for their first term, and that would be Shelley Berry, Dan Marinick, and Deborah Naylor. And for their second term, because once you're on hospice board, we don't like you to leave. Heather Eatson, Marie Hines, and Dr. Becca Webster.
Thank you, Bob. And I believe Mary Blair is going to second that motion. Are there any questions? Hearing none, if you are opposed to the three, please wave your hand. If any abstentions? So it is my pleasure to welcome Sherry Berry, Dan Morena, and Deborah Naylor to the board. And welcome back Heather Easton, Marie Hines, and Dr. Becca Webster, one of our palliative care physicians, I should point out, and a new mother. And I don't see the baby there. Oh, she's sleeping. Okay, we'd like to welcome you all back to the board. So thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Hoyni Haas to say a few words before we adjourn.
So we have another extraordinary year behind us. COVID was and is still lingering around, and although we had challenges, our hospice team continued to show its resiliency. It has taken all of us, board, staff, volunteers, community partners, and donors. As you know, Hospice Peterborough is governed by a volunteer board of directors. Board and committee members bring diverse skills to our organization, giving their time and dedication to lead and shape current and future hospice palliative care in our community. I would like to thank every single board and board committee member for their contribution to Hospice Peterborough this past year. It was not an easy year, yet our board has accomplished so much. The board deserves special kudos on their process of education, research, surveys, careful reflection, and decision about medical assistance in dying in our residents. Our fantastic board continued to show their support and appreciation to our staff. They cooked us breakfast, became our Easter bunnies, brought us treats and kind words. We felt the board's support continuously. Their continuous care truly demonstrates the extraordinary compassion and kindness that filters through the work of hospice care. The 2022-23 board members were Karen Auger, Mary Blair, Kirsten Burgomaster, Adam Burns, Bob Campbell, John Corso, Heather Eatson, Marie Hines, Richard, or sometimes Rick Johnston, Margaret Keatings, Len Lifchus, Christina Murphy, Otis Smith, Becca Webster, and our board youth intern, Jacob Van Haften. Thank you for your leadership, commitment, and care. A special thank you goes to 3 board members who are retiring this year. John Corso led our quality committee for many years, and we have achieved accreditation during his leadership with an outstanding 98.67% in 2021. John is also a master bacon chef who prepared a tremendous amount of bacon for our staff breakfasts. It is great to know that we will continue to work every week with John as he's the manager on the palliative care unit at PRHC. Thank you for all you have done for our board, John. Karen Auger filled many roles on the board, from treasurer to vice president. While raising a young family and having a highly demanding professional life, Karen dedicated a lot of time to hospice and was able to support our finance department with so many things. Her quick thinking, quick wit, and the ability to explain finances to normal people like us or me in a way that we all understood were outstanding skills, and she will be greatly missed from the board. Our 3rd retiring board member is Bob Campbell, who has also served many roles on the board, including being a treasurer, being the board chair and president for 2 years, and past chair for this past year. Bob's calm approach, deep wisdom, kindness, and special ability to connect with people made him an incredible board member who had to navigate the organization through many challenges during the height of COVID-19. In 2022, Bob received the June Colwood Award from Hospice Palliative Care Ontario for his outstanding volunteer work. Thank you for all your support and work, Bob. And last but not least, I would like to recognize and personally thank our board chair, Len Lifchis, for his leadership. For many years, Len was one of our reception volunteers, and I highly enjoyed spending Christmas days at hospice with him for a few years now. This past year, he served as chair of our board, ensured everything is going well, ensured a great atmosphere, collaborative work, and moving items along. Len, thank you for all your hard work and leadership. We are looking forward to have you in the past chair role next year. And now our special appreciation to our volunteers. Without our volunteers, we would not be able to function and care for our clients at a level we can do with them together. Our volunteers are the heart and hands of our organization, supporting clients, sitting at reception, watering our orchids. I'm not sure if Chantal is on the call or not, or on the meeting. Fundraising, gardening, or supporting the work of a committee are the most special gifts to us and to our clients. Thank you to all of you for your amazing volunteer work and your dedication. I also would like to express our sincere appreciation to our donors. You make our work possible. Your donation covers 30% of our expenses. Your donations actually cover 100% of our grief support to our grief clients. Without your support, we would not be able to provide our services, and we are ever so grateful to you for your continued investment in hospice palliative care. And last but not least, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our wonderful team at Hospice, Team Awesome. Part of this team is Dr. Beamish and all of our palliative physicians. Thank you for all of your work. My continued deepest gratitude goes to our fantastic team members who continue to provide the best possible care and support to our clients. At the heart of hospice palliative care, at the heart of hospice palliative care lies the belief that every person deserves a vibrant and beautiful life from beginning to end. When someone faces a life-limiting illness, it can feel like their world faded to shades of gray. Hospice palliative care brings color, peace, and joy back to a client's life in the ways that matter most to them and to their family. No matter what role you play on our team, you all bring a unique color to the lives of our clients, and your work is crucial to the well-being and to the quality of life of the clients we support. Thank you, Team Awesome, for your care and for all of your hard work this past year. Thank you for being a special color. It is truly an honor to be part of such a wonderful, colorful, and amazing team. And this concludes my short 54-minute speech. Thank you very much all for your patience.
Thank you, Hoini, for your short speech. It's very much appreciated by all. And I'm looking forward, now that my year as president is drawing to an end, of getting back to the reception desk next month. So I have great fun of terrorizing the staff and all that. And greeting all of our wonderful visitors that come into the building. On that particular note, does anyone have anything else they would like to bring before this annual meeting? Seeing none, Adam Burns is going to make the following motion. Be it resolved that the 2023 AGM of Hospice Peterborough be adjourned. A motion of adjournment does not need a seconder. All those in favor? We are adjourned. I would like to thank everyone for participating in our 35th annual general meeting, and thank you for your support of Hospice Peterborough. I hope you can stick around and watch our slideshow that summarizes our year. And also a quick reminder to the incoming board, and that includes those new board members. We'll see you at 1:30 on our next Zoom call, where we can elect a certain person from Tim Hortons chair of the board. And otherwise, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you all really soon. Take care and have a good summer.
Thank you.